Good morning, YouTube. I just have a quick message that I just want to share with you guys. I saw the movie with a documentary type thing by Larry Elder called Uncle Tom. It was awesome. And I would urge everybody to watch it because and he's coming from historical facts and data. And the gist of it is, because I'm not going to make this long, I have to go do some things. But the gist of what it is saying is that despite, and it takes you back to, slavery coming on back up and the Freedmen's Bureau and all that kind of stuff that went on with blacks and the Jim Crow South and segregation and the Ku Klux Klan, all those things that were against black folks. Okay, where it was absolutely systematic racism, so they're talking about systematic racism. Okay, but what they're saying is that even that could not stop it. It was not a barrier. White privilege was not a barrier to black folks, in the sense that they had more businesses than up until the 1960s. We predominantly had two-parent homes. Our children were not littering the streets, killing one another in gangs and all those things. So they're making a point that despite all of those things, black folks rised. Even they said, and watch it because I believe I'm saying this right. He said how even in the 30s, like during the Depression, when people were actually killing themselves because of all the, Wall Street fell and things like that, blacks had a higher percentage of two-parent homes than whites. And so we know that the number one cause of the jails being full of so many of us is because of fatherlessness. And so up until the 1960s, before Johnson did his war on poverty, we had it hard, and nobody denies that. But the mere fact is those things did not stop us from doing all the things that we did. And now that we have the welfare system is our baby daddy now and takes care of the home. And now that we have all these single parent homes that in which the welfare system was a part of systematic racism working within our community, because it was like, well, there's a man in the home, you can't get any help, right? So now there's no man in the home and you got help. But what has it produced? It produced a whole generation of just a nanny state with all what people sitting on welfare and looking for a handout. And look, folks was buying land and stuff like that. We were buying land and we didn't know about our history. Okay? We didn't. Everybody said, black people need to learn their history. But they didn't know their history. Well, they thought that they were told, they didn't think that they were, but they were told they were 3/5 of a human being. They were told they couldn't vote, they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. And one by one, they knocked those things down. And yes, all the, bad things happened at that time too, but look what they accomplished. And when you look at now, what is going on, when any one of us could go and apply for a Pell Grant and go to school. So what's stopping you? Any one of us can get a GED. There is help everywhere that you look around. There are resources for black folks to pull themselves up. I think how this story years ago, I think I was in my 30s when I heard of this young man who went on to go to college. This boy was living in a house by himself because his mother was a crackhead and had abandoned him. So he was living in a homeless house. Okay, he was going to school every day because that's the only way he could get breakfast and lunch. It's the only way he could eat. And so, but he knew he had to not alert the authorities, or if they would take him and put him in foster home or something, right? So he maintained getting A's and B's, so nobody would have to, contact his parents because his grades were lacking. He had to make sure he kept himself clean. This is a kid who would these so-called civil rights leaders say, well, what about the people who don't have boots? You saying pull up by your bootstraps? What about the people who don't have boots? He didn't have any. And yet this young man did that. And those are just the wonderful ways when we look around that God shows us that he is enough. And the thing is, black folks always believe that God was enough. My mother taught me that when you wake up in the morning with your health and your strength and your right mind, you are rich. She said you get on your knees and you ask God, Lord, help me. Help me to survive. Help me to take care of my children. And she said, God, do that. And I'm a witness that he has. Okay? So you don't have to sit on welfare. You don't have to, there's no barrier for me. Okay? All right? And as long as you keep, and what really freaks me out is a lot of these people who are saying this stuff, you got bootstraps. What in the heck is holding you back? Anyway, this is just a little, 6-minute video I made. But watch the movie Uncle Tom. They give you a whole lot of facts and details, letting us know that despite systematic racism, blacks did amazing thing. You know, I have people in my family. Cousin Benny showed us documents where they bought land. These documents are signed with an X because my forebears could not read or write. They made an X. They had the Ku Klux Klan back then. Systematic racism breathing down their neck. And yet they still maintain a 2-parent home, find a way to buy property. So please, I don't want to hear any more about white privilege. Get out and go do something. And especially if you're a Christian. If you're a Christian and believe you can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, then why in the world would any systematic racism stop me? Look in first century Christianity, where they had no rights. They had no elected officials. Christian was being thrown in the arena with their children to be devoured by lions. They were dragged out of their homes and put in jail. They had no rights. They were being hanged, and sawed in half and died all kind of terrible deaths. And yet they believed nothing could stop them because they had Christ, and they still were not preaching the gospel, knowing that they would be killed for it. And you sit down in your house and talk about bootstraps. Give me a break. But anyway, that's all I want to say. I'm leaving. Now this video is 8 minutes. But anyway, bye-bye. Love you. And think on those things. And you pray and ask God to give you wisdom and stop following Black Lives Matter, a group that is so anti-God and anti-establishment. God don't need us to unite with Black Lives Matter in order to fight justice. We can do that without that group. Okay? So anyway, love you. Bye-bye.